Hey, it's Tom Collins, 8FigureBusiness.com. Excited to share with you this little training tip today. This one is actually a leadership training tip I learned, gosh, how many years ago? Back in 1990. Yeah, 1990 going into 91, so a long time ago. It's been around for a while. It's very effective, has been very effective for me. I've used it in sales. I've used it in leadership and executive management. I've used it just in training people. And as they say, you know, if you're in business, you're always selling. You've always got to be selling. You're selling your customers, you're selling your employees, you're selling your vendors. You're always trying to get the best of the best for everybody. Really a win-win situation. So what I've done is I've carried this card since 1990, since my manager, Steve Weber, there you go, Webb. Anyway, Steve Weber gave me this training, introduced me to Ken Blanchard, the 1 Minute Manager. This actually, I have no idea what he calls this, but you can find this online. I'm sure what we'll do with the blog post is we'll put a link to where the source of this is from if you want to see the real thing more than just my drawing. So anyway, I'm going to refer to this as we go, but essentially, in my experience at PMI, whether it was training an employee, whether it was making a sale, saving sale, or whether it was actually bringing in a new account or working with a seasoned account, basically this is a model that allows you to evaluate where somebody's at in the process. Where's their head at? Where's their heart? Where's their mind? Where are they? And how can you best help them make progress? How can you move them ahead in your relationship with them? Again, if it's selling, if it's training, if it's leadership, if it's negotiating, this is a great tool to refer to people all the time. And it's a great reminder because a lot of people, especially if you're doing coaching programs, one of the things that happens is you get fatigue. You get fatigue of hearing the same questions all the time, or, oh gosh, they always have this problem. I can't get over this problem. Well, use this to refresh yourself and remember where people are in the curve. So I'm going to show you what this is based on, and it's based on two things for you to evaluate. And I'm going to go through enthusiastic beginner, disillusioned learner, reluctant contributor, peak performer, and how to relate to each one of those people. But it all comes down to their competence. In other words, how competent are they to perform the task or the job or the project or whatever you want them to do or they want to do as a result of working with you. And how is their commitment? So are they competent and are they committed? So let's go through the wheel here. First and foremost, the enthusiastic beginner. If you think about an enthusiastic beginner, typically they've got a really high level of commitment. They're like, yes, I'm gung-ho, I'm going for it, and yet they almost have zero competence or minimal skills, right? So how do you treat those people? How do you help them move along? One of the things, particularly in training, particularly if you're bringing someone from another industry into your industry, based on the model from Ken Blanchard, is you spend time directing them. What that means is more frequent interaction. So you might speak with them every day, you might speak with them twice a day, you might be all day with somebody, particularly when a relationship's new and exciting and you're helping them figure out what they need to do with your model, with your materials or in the relationship, because their commitment's really high. And as you know, if you believe in a lot of frequency can help people acquire skills very quickly, and someone who's intense and wants to learn very quickly can. And so the more time you spend with them directing them, the better off you'll be. So if you're doing coaching and you have a newbie, essentially it's showing them what to do, showing them how to do it, and saying, go do that right now and come back very quickly with your feedback. Call me tonight after you watch the video and you attempt to do whatever. And so it's a very quick feedback loop, very fast turnaround. Stephen Covey, one of the greatest trainers I've experienced, taught me the feedback loop. So you want to direct an enthusiastic beginner until they start to get it. Now, what this doesn't address is the person who stays committed all the way through until they're a peak performer, right? So what happens along the line is someone's an enthusiastic beginner, they go out and try a few things, they work for them or they don't work for them. If they don't work for them, then what happens is they become a disillusioned learner. Like, yeah, I was going to go for that, but I stubbed my toe and I don't know. And that's when you start to hear is, I don't know, or they start to negotiate, or they start to go, well, hey, what if we did it differently? All the time you hear, we were thinking of doing that. If you're consulting someone, you'll lay out a plan for somebody and they'll go, yeah, we were thinking about that, but we decided to do this instead. Guess what? You've got a disillusioned learner, someone who's not fully bought into your program, into your training, right? So with the disillusioned learner, their competence is now, it's okay. It's gone up from 0 to something, because now they're starting to make decisions on their own. And as they're new in the system, the decisions aren't always going to be the best decisions, right? You need to know that. They need to know that. How you introduce that concept to them that they didn't possibly make the best decision right now is sometimes a diplomatic thing. Anyway, but this is where their commitment goes down a little bit, and they start to go, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I want to stay in the program. I don't know if I want to do it exactly this way. And so what you do with a disillusioned learner is literally coach the person, right? Bring them back to the basics. Bring them back to what motivated them to be committed in the first place, what skills they decided to acquire, what the end game is. And so bringing them back to that and coaching them through it and going, hey, you can do this. This can work for you. This is how this works. Let me show you some case examples of students or case examples of clients we've had where this has worked. And so everybody, just by the way, just side note, if you've worked with me now, you know how I talk to you. And it's very effective because it's very diplomatic and it's a very easy thing to do. But you may have experienced this in the past. As Steve Weber did this to me, trained me up great. I appreciate that, Steve. So coaching this person, getting them through this like, oh, I was committed, but now I'm not so sure, and get them to the point where they're competent enough to start getting results. Again, the goal isn't to go from beginner to disillusioned to reluctant. You want to get them from disillusioned back to fully committed so they can bypass and go straight to peak performer, go as fast as they can to peak performer. That's always the goal. However, what you'll get then is someone who has good competence, they are skilled, but their commitment goes to 0. So someone who goes, yeah, we're all in here, right? They get results, and then all of a sudden they stub their toe and they go, gosh, it's been 90 days and now we started getting refunds. What's going on? Well, gosh, if I've done a good job training here and directing, they know that after 90 days in a particular cycle, a certain amount of refunds is going to come in, and here's how we're going to handle them and be prepared for that. So you can say, hey, remember when we talked about this 30 days ago, 60 days ago, 90 days ago? This was going to happen. Now here's how we handle it and just get through this speed bump. So effectively, a reluctant contributor typically has had results, positive results that they liked, but now it's getting a little more serious and the honeymoon's over, right? The fun's worn off and now it's just kind of ongoing work. And if you're an IM, this is when you just drop that product, go do a new launch, forget about the millions of dollars you could have kept making if you kept selling that product. That is my jab. So, however, your commitment isn't there, right? So you need to get your commitment going, and that's where you just support the person, encourage them, and say, hey, you know, but focus them back on the results, because at this point they're focusing on the negative, not on the positive result, not on the positive outcome, right? They're only focusing on the pain. So comparing the trade-off of the pain, hey, gosh, you've worked this hard to get to this point so far. This is one of the best ones. You've worked this hard to get to this point. Now it's easy. All we have to do is overcome the speed bump. So it's just part of the learning curve. It's part of the process. And that typically helping people to sit down and get perspective. If you think about that, even in your own life of things that you're struggling with, if you sit back and go, hey, okay, so I'm feeling this pain, but what's the outcome? Wow, that outcome either is worth it or it's not, right? And this is where the perspective, your perspective, and being able to help your client, help your student understand that, wow, that's either worth it or it's not, and help them make that decision. Seth Godin wrote a book called The Dip, right? Of, hey, when you get to this point, here's how you know whether to continue or to bail. So this person's thinking of bailing. If you know that what's on the other side, the outcome is good for your student, for your client, this is where you support, train, right? Give them the love. Show them the outcome. Surround them with other people that can help them out and help them understand and see what the value is. So, and then finally, the last one is the best. This is the peak performer, right? High commitment, high competence, and effectively, this is the person that you want to take all of the leash off and say, go. Go do what you do it well, and as the opposite of frequency here, this enthusiastic beginner, you're with them by the minute, by the hour, by the day, right? Quick turnaround. The peak performer, it's like, hey, go, and your reporting can be spaced out. It can be weekly. Typically, it's short. can be reduced to kind of a occasional strategy session where you meet monthly or even quarterly to do strategy sessions. This is where you want everyone to be, right? So if someone's giving me coaching leads, for example, and we've gotten to peak performer stage, our conversations aren't, hey, do you have leads for us this week? Or, hey, how's it going? All the systems are go. We've gone through and dealt with all the speed bumps, and now we're just in fire mode going, how can we scale this? How can we get bigger? How can we get better? How can we just create all the efficiencies? And what you have then is a partner, someone who's a peer, someone who's at your level or better, and that's what you want. At PMI, we wanted world-class lead providers because we were a world-class sales and coaching organization. We didn't want to take anybody who was a B or a C because it slowed us down, and a lot of times they quit. They weren't up to the game, and there's a lot, that's okay. But what was interesting is the peak performers that stayed with us is how we got to be a world-class company and over $100 million, almost a $200 million a year company. So anyway, that's what you're working towards, and effectively, like I said, this is where you delegate, right? So let me just bring that to a point. If you're going to grow your business and you're going to get beyond you, the solo entrepreneur doing 6 figures, 7 figures a year, but solo, you're going to have to get peak performers. Either bring them up and train them from within and bring them up on the inside, or even on the outside, the relationship process is still going to go this way. Do they want to work with you, right? They might be fully talented, but they're not sure they want to commit and give up everything else to become part of your team full time, right? What are you doing to help support them in that measure? A good client of mine had a guy move from Australia all the way to Chicago. Well, they obviously got through this phase very, very quickly because that guy was like, yeah, I'm going to be all in. He was a peak performer, and guess what? The results show for it. So anyway, lots of information today. Decision-making process all around everyone you're dealing with. Are they competent and are they committed? And where would you rank them determines really what kind of energy, what kind of conversations you need to have. So anyway, really good stuff. Tom Collins, 8-Figure Business. Hope you enjoy this. Hit me up with any questions on this because this one happens all the time. In fact, I do have one more conversation where yesterday I was on the phone with one of my boot camp students, and she said, gosh, I now have to have a really hard conversation with someone who was a peak performer. We put them into a new role, and now we're in reluctant contributor mode. They want to do the thing, but they're not competent at it, actually. They're a disillusioned learner again because they moved to that level of incompetence, right? They're great at one thing, but they wanted to take on the second thing, and the second thing's not working out. Well, she's got to have that conversation with them and go, hey, this isn't working out. However, she needs a coach and support because they're kind of right in here. If she can keep the commitment up from that person, it's pretty easy to have that conversation and turn them around and get them back to peak performer mode. But at the end of our call, it was like, wow, that's a tough call, but here's how to have it, how to be real with it and not just, blow people off or ignore them, but to make it a win-win, work it out, resolve it, and grow her business, which they're both heavily invested in. So anyway, really, really big conversation yesterday. Hope that went well for you, by the way, Susan. And Tom Collins, 8-Figure Business, we're out.